Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my frame rate comparison test. In this test, I'll be testing the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 Pro, the Xbox One, and of course, the Xbox Series X, with potentially the PlayStation 5 at a later time when I get it. Because Europe gets it like a week later than the US! Moving on. On your screen, you will always see the PlayStation 4 version on your left, the PlayStation 4 Pro version in the middle, and on the right, you will see the Xbox One version. For full transparency's sake, in every single test that I've done, I took the exact same route that I did inside of Los Santos, Blaine County, as well as the casino. As well as, of course, also using the exact same vehicle with the exact same upgrades, so there can be minimal differences in between the two. So diving into the results of the consoles, and little spoiler alert, on the base consoles it is looking really rough. And even on the Pro version, it's not as good as you might expect. But with that said, let's dive into some results. On PS4 in the casino, you will get an average of 18 FPS. In Los Santos, you will also get an average of 18 FPS. And in Blaine County, you will get an average of 21 FPS. And if I'm being honest, I've not seen the PlayStation 4 hit 30 FPS ever inside of any sort of these situations. But in invite only though, I have seen the PlayStation 4 base console hit the 30 FPS mark at times inside of Los Santos. In the casino, however, with an average of 23 FPS, that's not going to happen. In Los Santos though, stuff does seem to really improve and there is an average of 27 FPS. And this is mainly due to the more busy sections inside of the map. Already you can see that there is a difference of nearly 10 FPS between having a populated lobby of over 25 players to being on your own in an invite only. GTA Online is solely based on the amount of players inside of your session when it comes to FPS. If you need more proof in that, let's have a look at the PlayStation 4 Pro. On the PS4 Pro in the casino, you get an average of 23 FPS, in Los Santos 26, and in Blaine County, you get 30 FPS. In an invite-only session, this kind of drastically changes. In an invite-only session in the casino, you hit a pretty decent 29 FPS, and inside of Los Santos, you get a solid 30, which is actually what should be happening in normal lobbies, but hey, that's beside the point. But now it's time for Xbox One. And I know there's probably a lot of you just kind of rubbing their hands together, okay, here we go. But surprisingly enough, it's not as bad as you might think compared to the PlayStation 4. Results might actually be very shocking. In the casino, you will get an average of 17 FPS. In Los Santos, you get an average of 18 FPS. And in Blaine County, it actually does better than the PlayStation 4 with 24 FPS. In an invite-only session though, is where stuff gets a little bit rougher than the PlayStation 4 base console. Because in the casino, you get an average of 22 FPS, and in Los Santos, you get an average of 27 FPS. Now, it should be going without saying that my personal experience with Xbox One is definitely very rough, and I think the other day when I was playing on it, I was pretty sure I was in single-digit FPS. But no less, the game performance is garbage. There's no denial about that. Another interesting thing about FPS and how much it's actually based on the game and how much it affects it. For example, inside of races, if you're on a base PS4 and you're playing against someone on a PS4 Pro, in a straight line, you're going to lose speed because FPS is directly linked to how fast your car is going inside of the game as well. On top of the fact that I personally found it very interesting with how much exactly the FPS is affected by the amount of players in a session. I made sure that every single lobby that I test in a public session had at least 25 players, and oh boy, as you can tell by the footage, the base consoles are not handling that well at all. Even the PS4 Pro is struggling at times, and I've never seen it dip underneath 20 FPS, but I've seen it hit the low 20s, which is very rough to see. But now it is time to compare all this good stuff against the new good stuff, which is the Xbox Series X via backwards compatibility, because the game is not actually out yet on next gen officially. So basically, to not beat around the bush, it's very simple. The Xbox Series X, and I'm happy to say this, is running the game at a stable 30 FPS, even in sessions that are with at least 25 players. Now, this might not come to a shock as some of you, but since GTA Online in its frames go hand in hand when it comes to the amount of players. It's very good to see this, and it does give some good potential for a future release on actual next gen and hopefully in 60 FPS. But that's far and far away. Having said this, there are occasional drops to 29, but I'm willing to say that is most likely because of the software that I'm using, and the way it works is that I just import footage to that and then it basically counts the frames. So it is possible, and I personally think that is likely, that that is indeed what is going on. Having said this, the game feels very, very nice on Series X. It is a very solid experience, and if you're used to the base Xbox One or the PS4 version, then you can definitely notice a difference. Even from a PlayStation 4 player myself that I primarily play on, it is still very much noticeable. The menus feel a little bit more fluent, everything is a little bit snappier. Now, if it's worth investing into a completely new console, if you already are on PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X, I don't know, but that's entirely up to you. At the top of the video, I also wanted to include the load times of the 4 consoles. I'll spare you the whole footage of the game loading, but you can see the results on your screen. The Series X, obviously, miles quicker. I should mention that I didn't count the moment that I was in single player and I navigated to the invite only section of the menu. That way it's more consistent with the loading times and the footage, and the results are purely loading time. So other than that, there isn't really much else to add to it. Obviously the results do speak for themselves, so if you did like the video, you found it useful, make sure to leave it a like, share it around, and subscribe for more, because I am planning on doing a PlayStation 5 version of this too. Kind of see what's up with that, but that will just be its own separate video because I unfortunately live in Europe and I have to wait until November 19th until I actually get mine. So stay tuned for that. Thank you also very much for watching. Consider becoming a member to get early videos and early testing results and all that good stuff. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you all later.